Hey, welcome to Your Personal Health. I'm Jeff Harrison along with.
Dr. Krista Burris.
Dr. Michael Kim.
Hey, we were talking about something off camera, and that's why we're just a few minutes late. My apologies. I kind of get them started and forget to tell them, hey, it's time to go. But we're talking about honesty in the client or patient doctor relationship. And it's interesting because I was doing a little research before we came on the show today, and I looked at questions that said there's 17 questions the doctor wish you would ask them that we don't ask as a patient. And so we tend to cover things up. And, Dr. Burris and Dr. Kim, let's talk about that a little bit. And because it's always one of those things, it's like when we fudge something, when I say we as patients fudge something, then your ability to give us the right direction to go next to reach that optimal health obviously is a little skewed. And the old example, like when I was teaching golf, I said, hey, if a plane took off from LA and they're just 1 degree off track, they were going to go to New York and they were just 1 degree off track, they would be hundreds of miles off course by the time they got to the East Coast. The same thing can happen to our health, gang. And so let's talk about that a little bit. How often does that happen? And let's talk about specific things of not using anybody's names, especially mine. And let's talk about, how does that cloud your judgment, or do you figure that in?
I think very quickly as a doctor, you start to learn that people tend to do this. So we all will sort of fudge things a little here and there. Your driver's license might have a different weight on it than reality, things like that. People will tend to estimate, if you ask them how tall they are, they'll add like a quarter to half an inch. It's like, and so as a doctor, you kind of get used to people doing this. But sometimes it's funny because like I'll have a patient come in that I've never seen before, and I'll ask them, well, how much do you smoke? And they are stunned that I can tell, but I can smell the cigarette smoke. And so some of those things as a doctor, you've just kind of gotten to the point where you're kind of used to people lying. Like when I was at the VA and training, every single veteran that I admitted to the hospital said they weren't smokers. Most of them were. And then when you ask them when you quit, they always said this morning. So that happens a lot in medicine. The problem is, if I don't know that person just quit smoking 4 hours ago, I'm not going to be able to respond appropriately if they start having some withdrawal symptoms. So if I know that person was a 2-pack a day smoker and they came into the hospital and stopped smoking, actually might put a nicotine patch on them so they don't have that problem. So there's a lot of things about honesty with your doctor that will save you some suffering.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that's happening? I mean, what causes us to say, add that quarter inch on height? And we know you're gonna put us on the stick and measure us or weigh us. Why do we do that?
Yeah, if we had that answer, then we would be millionaires. No, I think part of the problem is, and if you haven't already figured out if you watch the shows, I like analogies. So I liken it to like The Bachelorette or The Bachelor, right? This is a show where you throw all these people in and they're having micro dates to see who's going to get married to this one person. I'm like, how can you get to know someone in that short a time to say, I want to marry you? And so the doctor visits used to be long, but now they're like 5 minutes. So I know, if I went on a date for 5 minutes, if someone said, well, after 3 dates, hey, will you marry me? I'm like, what? So I think part of the problem is that you can't build that relationship with your provider in 5-minute increments. And then we as providers can't expect people are going to talk to us about things that they're maybe in the past have been shamed on, or they're too, upset to admit, yeah, I'm a smoker and I need help. And I think part of the problem is that that relationship isn't there. And it's really just okay, you need to do this. do that, and then you leave, and then you know it's, well, now what do you do? So I think part of the problem is that relationship building isn't quite as in depth as it could be.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, people are lying to us. But the flip side of that coin is, hey, people don't trust us enough to tell us the truth. And so that's also a major problem. And I think in healthcare, we've earned that sort of, lack of vulnerability sometimes. And I have several friends who won't go to the doctor at all because they've had bad experiences before. And such bad experiences that they really need help, but it's a barrier for them because they're afraid of doctors. And I think that's unfortunately not that uncommon.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about a bad experience, I mean, are you saying they were misdiagnosed, they were treated rudely? What do you, I mean, like, what do you mean?
I think for most people, it's a combination of feeling like they weren't listened to and maybe weren't given a thorough evaluation, and that maybe their health was put in jeopardy, um, or outright feeling like somebody, we were talking about shame on the other show, but shamed them and made them feel like unworthy.
Mm.
I've had patients before who really have been treated badly just because of who they were when they went into an office. And that's something that still happens, unfortunately. Sometimes it happens at the front desk, sometimes it happens in the back of the office, but it's something that stays with people. And I think sometimes when I'm approaching a patient that's a little hostile or maybe tense, I have to remember, I don't know their past, and maybe they've had that kind of bad experience. So I need to keep that in mind.
Yeah. So it's really about. It sounds like it's one of those things. It's a maybe some lack of just compassion or training on communication. Is it?
I think there is that, but I also think the system has put so much pressure on the normal doctor to get your patients at a certain goal. We'll take diabetes, right? The insurance companies have the metrics on all the diabetics of one doctor, and they say, okay, you need to have your A1Cs at this, and you have to have all these things, and they don't pay you if you don't have all that, and if you don't do all that. So doctors now are like, okay, I got to get more people in because they're not paying me, and then they're not paying me the full amount because they're on all these things, and so with all that, they're telling people, okay, you're a diabetic, you need to lose weight, you got to do this. And I don't know if it's that they don't care. I think there's a lot of pressure and forces on providers to be like the zap you when you come in, because that's the only thing they have time to do, rather than sit down and go, hey, wouldn't it actually be better to let's work on these other things so you'll feel better, and really get at some different ways as to how we can motivate people to make some lifestyle changes, because it's easy to write a prescription, but that's not really going to help someone down the road.
Well, it may, but the lifestyle change will be more effective.
Well, I always tell people you can eat more glucose and sugar as a diabetic than I could put insulin in you. You could outpace that, but the amount of sugar you put in your body. So,
Well, you had mentioned, Dr. Burris, that whenever you've had friends who now have had COVID, or they are suspicious of having COVID, but they're afraid to tell anybody because they're going to be shamed. And I think that's true for people. We see it with whether it's somebody who has a problem with an eating disorder, they have mental disorders or suicidal thoughts, things of that nature, and they are afraid to come out for fear of that, what you said on the other show, the shame that's involved in that. And yet, if you don't know, if you have no way of knowing because they don't share it, how can you, as the medical professional, how can you help them?
You sometimes you can't. We do try to ask about certain signs of things, especially in the mental health. Anxiety and depression are very common, and under the last couple of years, it's gotten even more common. And so for a lot of people, they may never have had problems with anxiety before and now are experiencing it for the first time and may not recognize that the symptoms that they're having, whether it's headaches or jaw pain or neck ache, backache, stomach aches, there can be a lot of pain that goes along with anxiety and depression, as well as having chest pains or just being exhausted. And anxiety is exhausting. So often people feel like they're doing great, but they come in and they're like, why am I like, as soon as I get home in the evening, I can't do anything. I just like collapse.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we help them put the picture together, by ruling out some of other things, but also asking a few more questions. So sometimes our job is to help them see it. And at other times, I might suspect it. I might ask them the questions. They might not be ready to talk about it yet. But I sort of put a pin in it and come back to it next time.
One thing I do notice about Coachella Valley primary care physicians is the fact that your intake for a new patient is much different than that of anybody else. Like I just recently changed and went to a different dentist, and my intake was filling out about four pieces of paper and signing some information about COVID. That was really the intake. There was no real serious discussion about who I am, what I've done. This is often blah blah blah. But I remember when my wife started with you guys, I think you guys were on the phone, I think telemedicine, if you will, on a Zoom call for like 2 hours. She was blown away. Like you really knew her and she got comfortable with you in those 2 hours, that there was a relationship built. Unlike, as you explained before, Dr. Kim, it wasn't this speed dating. You got 5 minutes and now you're off to the next customer. How can you do that more? Not for you, but how can it be done more? Or is it just not even possible out in the real world?
Well, in the usual system, I'm not sure it can be done unless you have a really spectacularly unique doctor that's in process of burning themselves out. So there are many of us that went into medicine because we actually like these kinds of relationships with our patients, and we like to be able to actually have a more than superficial relationship. And I mean that in the sense of, I actually want my patients to tell me the truth and for me to be able to give them some help that's actually going to benefit them. It's like, otherwise I feel like we're both kind of wasting our time. So, but in order to get there, it takes a little time to really get a full picture and for people to get to know you and kind of like learn, hey, can I actually trust you with my, vulnerable information here? For some people, their vulnerable information is going to be their family history or how they grew up. Or maybe what happened to them in their early life. So that information sometimes takes a while for us to get from patients, and it's not unusual sometimes for us to get the full picture of a patient's medical history and social history at like visit 5 or 6. And that's okay. It's just in the usual system, I'm not sure you've ever get to that point with some people.
Is that as doctors in your training, is that ever taught?
Oh yeah, when you first start as a first year medical student or as an intern, they set you loose and say, here's the 5-page medical history and physical, and it asks detailed, go at it.
Yeah.
And you go and you spent 2 hours with one patient, so you're learning and you're getting all the information so that you can have a skeleton to hang everything on. But as you go through training, you quickly realize you can't do that every patient because you're admitting 10 people at night, and there's no way you're going to ever finish. And so you just go straight to the, what's the problem, and you skip everything else. So.
Yeah, and it's not unusual for doctors to interrupt patients and tell them they don't want the information. And so when you start, an intake takes an hour and a half to 2 hours. And by the time you're done with residency, you can probably do it in 10 minutes.
Wow. Back to speed dating.
Yeah.
But that's the system. It's not necessarily the doctor. It's the system. Yeah.
Correct.
Wow. Well, I'm very grateful for the fact that there's Coachella Valley Direct Primary Care who has a different system. Can you guys take just a few minutes and tell us a little bit about how it is different? Because I've kind of alluded to it, but I don't want it to be a secret. I want people to understand that there is an alternative out there, and it's not a bank breaking alternative. It is a mind freeing opportunity, and also to find your best health. So if you guys could take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about Coachella Valley Direct Primary Care.
Sure. Direct primary care is a model of healthcare that's been around for over a decade. And it was doctors who were getting frustrated with the system, who noticed, hey, what we're doing is burning us out, and it's frustrating the patients, and it's not producing great results. So what can we do? So we've taken primary care out of the insurance model, and we basically have direct contracts with our patients, and they pay month to month, and they are part of the practice. And for that monthly fee, they get their primary care covered from us, and all of our services are included with that. No matter how many visits they need, there aren't any additional copays. No matter how many times they need to call us, no matter if they need a televisit, no matter if they need a same-day visit, we provide sort of, I would say, like an urgent care light. We can do some basic procedures here in the clinic as well. So we're available for emergencies as well on the weekend. And I think for most people, that's going to take care of most of their day-to-day healthcare needs. And then we do still recommend that people have insurance for those things that are outside of our scope. So things like hospitalizations or specialty care, or larger accidents where you would need to go to the emergency room, that type of thing. But for the primary care, we can take care of that and carve it out. And what we found is that we don't need a lot of patients to actually have a decent practice doing it this way. So instead of a traditional practice in the insurance model, where we might have 2,500 to 3,500 patients, a direct primary care practice can be full at around 500 to 600. So we're able to actually spend a lot more time with the patients we have. So it's a lot more satisfying for everyone.
And I just want to jump in and ask, we're talking about it is a membership program, and I've got the information on the screen now. If you're 45 and younger, it's only $99 a month, and then 46 and above is $145 a month. And I know you guys have talked about if you have more people in the family and there's multiple people, that there are some discounts. But one thing I want to ask or want to point out is you have told us in the past, a lot of times now that we become a member of your program, we may go back and now alter our current health care that we're paying for, and actually we get 2 for 1, if you will, because we probably can lower some of the things we have on our let's say the expensive plan, because we don't need that, because now you're taking care of, let's face it, the majority of all of our primary care needs. And so we don't have those $35 a month visits and so on and so forth, because as you said, this is not an insurance-based membership. So when I come in, it's not another copay. It's not, you're going to send me off someplace else. It's, you're my doctor. Isn't that true that literally you can look at it and say, hey, well, because you're doing this, now you can lower some of your things that you're paying on your insurance. And by the time it's all said and done, I'm probably not spending any more money every month, but I'm getting so much better care.
For a lot of people, that's what happens. It actually either ends up costing them about the same after they take a look at their other coverage, or sometimes even saves them money. Not everyone, it sort of depends on the situation and the type of coverage they need. So everyone's kind of in a unique situation, and we do try to sort of help people make wise decisions for themselves.
Right. And I do tell people, if you're time crunched, you're a busy professional, or you're working, we try to fit our schedule around you. We have stated hours, but we'll come in before our hours or after, or even on weekends, because we want to be there for our patients. So I say, that 1 hour that we spend with you, whatever if it's 99 or 145, how much are you able to save? Because you're not having to come in on the weekday and break your day up and go to the doctor or spend the time on the phone. We try to do, we have a busy, specialist who's a member of ours, and we come in on Saturdays because he's so busy, he can't come in the weekdays. We're like, that's cool. We'll come see you. We understand you're busy, and that's what we're here for. We try to, we try to be reasonable, just like everyone. We have lives, you have lives, but we do want to work around your lives because we understand that's, you're busy just like we are, and we can make a system work for everyone.
Well, the nice thing about it is, many times when it comes to, death and taxes, there's not a lot of negotiating room there. But now with our health, we have some choices. We don't just have to plug in and say, this is our only hope, our only choice, and we have to put up with it. You can actually now make a decision and say, wait a second. I want more than just, what is out there. I would rather have something where I can actually have a relationship with my doctor or doctors in this case, and really get to know them and them me, so that when I say, hey, I'm having some trouble with my feet, you kind of already know what we're talking about. There's I'm playing pickleball and you should take some time off or whatever that may be. And it's not a 2 to 5 minute kind of program. There's a relationship there. So if you're interested in that, I've got the information below, and the number there is 760-642-5549. Just give Dr. Burris and Dr. Kim a call. Somebody there will answer the phone, or you can just go to their website. That is also up there at CoachellaValleyDPC.com. And consider that, because right now there's a tremendous shortage here in the Coachella Valley of primary care physicians. And so what that means is the ones that are practicing now have more, or actually they can't take any more, where Dr. Burris and Dr. Kim, I know they have a few openings. So give them a call and consider becoming one of their members. It's a life-changing thing. It truly is. And more importantly, you'll have time to be honest and have a relationship with Dr. Burris and Dr. Kim. Guys, any last thoughts before we wrap up today?
No, just stay safe out there, and wear your mask indoors. Delta is still going on.
Yeah,
we did mention on the other show that we're changing to Mondays because of our school pickup schedule with our kids. So it'll be the same time next Monday on Mondays, but Labor Day we're going to take a break so that everyone can rest and we don't burn Jeff out. So
yeah, we're looking forward to that. So we'll resume on Monday the 13th. And if you haven't seen it before, go jump into COVID-19. It keeps us updated of what's going on there on the COVID front here in Coachella and Riverside County, specifically Coachella Valley. And that starts at 3:00. That'll be Monday, September 13th. And then right behind them will be Your Personal Health, where we talk about all things that will help you stay healthy. And I'm looking forward to really diving more into the wellness part of being a member of your program, and not just coming to you, like I don't go to my mechanic, or I only go to my mechanic in my car only if it's not working right. I would rather have a relationship that I'm saying I'm just getting better. It's like going to the gym. I'm working out and getting stronger and healthier. That's the kind of relationship you can have when you're a member of Coachella Valley Direct Primary Care. So give them a call, 760-642-5549, or go to their website, CoachellaValleyDPC.com. Until next time, you guys have a great holiday. Be safe out there. And we're going to encourage you to go out and get tested. We need those testing numbers to continue to rise. And so our numbers are more accurate. Dr. Burris, Dr. Kim, thank you so much for all you do. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.